Yeah, and we can judge you the whole time.
Yes.
I've
What?
already started.
Yo, video games. What
That's
are they
weird.
426. Did you
Oh my
already play?
god. Is this...
420?
Hold on, I gotta adjust the volume mixer. I think this saved my file from like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
it'll do that.
Computer from 4 years ago?
False advertisement. I thought this was a blind run.
Cheater.
Oh,
Yeah.
holy shit, this game is loud.
You can mute it.
Yeah, no, I got it. It was, Adobe Flash has its own channel in the volume mixer.
Wait, how loud is this game?
Now it's better. Oh, this is new. Welcome to the Cave of Atman. Now do yourself a favor, bub. Favor with a U. See that knight at the top of the screen? Click them.
That's how we spell it in other English-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Our
That
English
poof.
is better now. We're fucking in America. What are you?
Blue frame
What
is
are
her
you?
movement range. The knight's a woman. There's only one tile that they can move to, so click there. Quickly now. Leave.
Yeah, actually, I noticed the other day that there's a bit of an error there in the writing where it starts off and it says "click on men," and then it refers to the knight as a her. All of the units in this game are female, but yeah, I was a bit inconsistent there with the writing, and I picked it up after we released it, but we haven't fixed it. So I think there's another error where there should be like a full stop instead of a comma. So.
Right. That red frames your attack range. Knights can only attack adjacent enemies. What are you still reading this for? Click the red box. Goodbye, comrade. When enemies die, they drop their aura behind them. You can collect this aura to level up your units and defeat stronger enemies. Let's try this now. Click on the other knight, move into the aura.
Actually, you can see with each step, I sort of like. One of the things I do is I increase the player autonomy. So, like in that second step, you actually have to do what you had to do in the first step, which is to click on the unit and move them. But where you move them is different. So it's like sort of building you up each step at a time.
When you've defeated all the enemies, you can move onto the next floor. You're on your own now, bub. Good luck. Oh, was it also intentional to... Did you find it necessary to make his dialogue more snappy, kind of like, hey, what are you still reading this box for? Go ahead and do the thing I just told you.
Yeah, I mean, that came quite naturally, but I think his personality is more direct, which means that the language I can use in the text is shorter, which makes the tutorial sort of more snappier and more clear because he's just giving you commands. So the personality of the character and kind of the function of what he's trying to do fit in quite well together, I thought.
So that first puzzle, pick up, straightforward, attack the enemy with the bottom unit, have the one on the top come down, pick it up, and then destroy the level 2 unit. This one, same deal. Pick up, boom. So I read in your blog that you actually got the whole fire idea from some game called Jeanne d'Arc on the PSP.
Yeah, that's right. I when was it, like 2012? I was playing a lot of SRPGs, and John d'Arc was one of them. And the other two were Fire Emblem, Sacred Stones, which I tried to beat for like the third time and then gave up again. And Tactics Ogre let us cling together. And so I was taking a lot of notes of those games, and in my notes I sort of come up with the idea of how I would change or repair those particular games, and sort of what I was going for is like, removing all the complexity and blah 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 blah, and basically stripping it right back. And really, there were sort of two things I wanted. One was the burning aura, because I thought that was a nice sort of dynamic element, and the other was the sort of the jigsaw of the different unit attack patterns and fitting those together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, see if I
I
can
guess
go
that
back.
comes through because is the only differentiation between the different units their attack pattern, or do they have different walking ranges too?
No, they all have 5 steps. So in a few levels, there's actually a room called 5 steps, which is based on your limited movement range. But yeah, it's just the attack patterns.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this to Daniel last time I talked to him about this game a long time ago, but I really liked that every unit had a different sound to it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite little subtle bits about this game.
Yeah, I used a sound effect generator and basically went through that until I found everything that I needed. So, oh yeah, I love how it's like you then attack over, so you can use the archer to shoot arrows over another unit, which is really clever.
Yeah, it's a cool consequence of the system.
This one was actually had something neat where someone dropped out.
Yeah, your stream was cutting off for me.
Okay, so with this archer where you haven't, this is the first time you're seeing this unit, you can't physically walk up and hit anyone in the face, so that's when you're naturally going to stumble upon, oh, this is an archer. Because it doesn't say archer, it says chasm, but that's how you figure out how to use that unit. So, yay, good level design here.
Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with the way that I was able to teach the different aspects of this game. And in some levels I do teach more than one thing, but it's quite clean, and it's sort of like I was playing this last night and I realized that there were 2 things that I liked, and that's 5 steps. And so you have to coordinate the 2 units to be able to make use of the limited movement range, and be able to attack the skeleton there. But yeah, this is something I noticed last night, where it's like a number of the levels, in fact quite a few of the levels, have multiple solutions. So they're somewhat open, and especially the initial puzzles are really easy to read and get into. So I think there was someone in the chat, I think Chime, said that for many of the levels it seemed like you were just doing the obvious thing, and I think that was sort of the intention in a way, which is to design on the levels so that they could easily be read, and so that the player would therefore very quickly be able to get a handle on all the complexities.
So those first 2 levels, what's the difference between those first 2 from a design perspective?
Again, let's go back and have a look at those levels. So I think the first one is really well, firstly, actually, it's worth mentioning that these levels were a lot more restricted before we did the initial playtesting section, so they were probably a bit more separate, more distinct in that sense. Just go back to the first one, Adrian. Yep. So I think it's more like this one is reasonably rigid, although, yeah, I think on the first one is more strict. whereas on the second one has more freer space. And so the main distinguishing factor is that in the second one, there is more freedom, and therefore the player has to have a clearer understanding of how the auras work in order to successfully complete the challenge. Whereas the first one is sort of engineered in a way that even if you attack, like no matter which side you attack the first enemy from, you can still then solve the you can still solve on the puzzle.
Okay. So like, hold on, let me just, I'm also playing this game, so let me go back to the second level. So the first one, you said it's pretty restricted, pretty constrained, and it's very, there's multiple solutions to it, and it's kind of hard to mess up, right? And then the second level is more open. So the second level.
Well,
So-
there's only one solution, right?
The second level has two.
Because if you attack the
You can do it from the bottom or the top.
Bottom of the
Yeah.
top.
Yes.
oh,
both
okay,
of
them-
okay, that's okay. I was thinking differently.
See,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
can go like
Yeah.
that, or you can start from the top, bottom. See?
Yeah, and so you can do two approaches in the first, in both of the first two levels. But really, on the main difference is that the extra bit of space requires sort of a bit more autonomy from the player.
When do you teach that the aura can affect the enemies? Because that's what I thought the second level was going to be. If you go back to it real quick, like if you move the top knight to the left of the level 1 skeleton, then so this is what I was talking about with the obvious thing. Like the thing that would be right in front of your face at that point would be the enemy. So you would select the knight and have her attack the skeleton, and then the aura would be pushed into the other knight, making it a level 3, and then the puzzle's impossible, right? But instead, you don't do that. You kind of have the knight positioned already in the spot where she needs to be to solve the puzzle, which I thought was a little interesting. Unless you do introduce that somewhere else, and I just forgot it because I'm still going through. Like I played through the game a couple days ago, but I'm going through again, so I don't remember when you introduced concepts like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, one of the things I try to avoid, and I think I did it quite well until some of the later levels where there's enough complexity that you can't avoid it, is this idea of sort of having too many, like, so having, if you've got like, say, a level 5 character, and then they attack a level 4 unit, and then as a result they'll drop a level 2 fire aura. Like that kind of relationship is quite can be quite confusing. So initially I tried to make it quite straightforward in that sense, and I think, I mean, I don't have the game up, but I think in the first level I had it so that there was that spacing there because you had to collect it. So there's sort of like, I suppose there's another bit there where it's like you can either collect it or it can fall on you, and you automatically pick it up if the aura spawns on top of you. So yeah, there's also that element. But I think I don't know if I'm answering your question quite right, but I think that I generally try to avoid some of those like more tricky situations with the aura calculations, which is perhaps why the puzzles are so readable.
Okay.
Wanted to show something with this puzzle double lock. So in here, if you move with this first off, it's a mistake, because then you have no way to attack this guy, since it must be in the 4 cardinal direct. Wait,
Wait.
Yeah, what do you
yeah,
mean?
I saw it there.
Again, this is a multiple solution
Right,
one.
so that one went there. So let me see this again. I could do that and that. I can also do.
I
Oh no,
think it
it's
is
if you do the
interesting.
bottom one first. This one is stuck up here, and then you have no way. That's
Right.
what I meant to show. I did it in
Yeah.
the wrong order.
So that's an interesting consequence, is that you can't move through units once they have attacked. And it actually took me a while to realize that, like, once a unit has attacked, like, they're done. You can't interact with them anymore. So like, it's interesting that the puzzles kind of express that and showcase it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges.
See,
Because the
can't move there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges with this sort of game, in that it's it's quite a simple game, but the interface can be a bit complex. So like, you first select an enemy, you select the unit, and then once you've selected that unit, you can see the attack range, and then the movement range, and then you move them, and only after you move can you then attack. And so there's a number of steps to your inputs, which is why I added that tutorial with the skeleton guy talking, because I found that when playtesting, players would get to like the 5th or 6th level and they'd still have difficulty figuring out how they're meant to interface with the game. So
Right.
yeah, that's sort of what I did.
Is there any kind of undo, by the way? So like, there's an undo if you don't commit your move. Like you don't attack, you can click the unit and they'll go back to the spot that they were. But there's a ton of level where sequencing is important, and if you mess up the sequence at the very beginning, you either have to just hit the restart button, or if there is an undo, which I'm not sure if there is or not, then you could undo it. But
No, I don't think there is an undo. As we were making the game, we had an undo feature, which was either the Z or X. It may still be in the game, I don't know. But no, we didn't include that. So I think on the game doesn't really. It's only in the last few levels where I think that becomes a bit of a problem. Generally everything's kind of mostly short enough that that's not really an issue, and that there's usually you can usually store everything in your brain, I find, so it's not too much of an issue.
well,
If you go
like
by
you said,
the,
until you get to the more
7
complex levels. But go ahead.
If you go by the 7 plus or minus 2 rule, I don't think there are usually more than 7 units on screen, so it is pretty easy to remember what everybody does.
I completely disagree with that. Like, I played this game 2 days ago, and like past level 15, there's constantly like 15 or 16 units on the screen, if you count the individual players.
Yeah, I just meant the player units.
Well, I mean, you have to take the enemies into account with that too.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose you probably may not be able to remember everything because there's the enemies and the different movement patterns. But I didn't feel like it was worth having an undo button in there, because if you can remember 70%, then you can that's already fine, I think. So, but I can see how it does become a problem in some ways.
I don't think that would work.
Speaking of...
Yeah?
Speaking of that, there's not really any enemy variation, is there?
No, it's just skeletons.
Which is cool. I mean, the game's complex with the one enemy type, so that's cool.
Was there an in-game justification for diagonal attacks only?
Well, that particular unit is the whip. So
That's a
Oh,
whip?
the
I thought
whip.
that was a bow snap.
That's
yeah, I know. Everyone says that. But no, it's a whip. So if you think about how a whip moves, it kind of moves in a sort of unconventional movement pattern, which is why it was mapped to diagonal. But I can see that the sprites don't convey that very well.
Yeah, I thought it was a staff too, but she kind of reminds me of like a cleric or a bishop, and those attack diagonally in chess. So that's how I kind of group those together. Plus, the sprite has a diagonal silhouette to it with the what I consider the staff.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that
yeah. See
also
the
helps.
hands.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what it could have used? Either a bit of a part dangling off the hand, going in or looping in like a circle, like the end of the whip.
Hey, Daniel,
it's a giant licorice.
I'm playing this game right now. It's fucking awesome. I really like it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean that would be great, Adrian, but I have to animate that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we talked about is having the attacks be an animation or having them just being what you see, like that, displace themselves a few pixels and then the sound effect will chime on in. So, I think the animation becomes, the animation, the program, it just became a little bit too complex for us to implement those in a very clean and efficient way. So, yeah, I mean, again, like we try to keep this game real simple, and sort of my approach was to have a real constricted game design and explore that design space quite thoroughly.
You go really.
And so, really, like, it's really the design space. Like, when I was sort of putting everything up together, like it's like the main bits are the jigsaw-like attack patterns of the units and how they all fit together. The fact that enemies can block the movement of other enemies, units can block on the movement of other units, and on the fact that everything is moving in a sequence. And so I noticed that some of the later puzzles, they will touch on all three of those areas of the design space. Certain levels only focus on certain elements. Like this level here is just focusing on the unique nature of the whip character and how that and how that operates in space. And so it has this like cool kind of like circular pattern around the edging there.
Yeah,
And this one here, I think, and this one here was to teach the like how the lancer works. This might be the first. Yeah, I introduced other lancers here. So, and I love the meaty sound that they make when they attack.
Yeah.
Also, it just feels good getting like a double kill. That's always cool.
Yeah, and then this has like, I explore this concept a bit further in another level, but it's like you basically stand still and attack across, so you leave a gap within your attack, which is really cool. And there's a level later on which does that, and you have to do like you have to leave a gap 3 times, and it's really cool. I like that. But I mean, it's good.
I just played one of them here where you have to do exactly that, where don't move and use the very end so that she can stay out of the way while getting rid of the one here. And this one come in and finish the job.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Make way.
Yeah, and so this is like another one of those how like it's designed around how units can block other units.
Yeah, because if I had just show it again. If I didn't realize that if I just ignored this gap and didn't realize that she is the only one who can attack this one and just did something like this and wasted her move attacking this one down here, it's like, whoops, I'm stuck. So that's why you know to do this.
Golem, why would you even need any other enemy types? I mean, they're just skeletons hanging around. It's all peaceful,
I know, they don't do
Well, it's
anything.
more of a remark on the design space that all of the complexity just comes from how the enemies, and really all you need is the enemies to stay still, and it's still a compelling puzzle game.
It is.
This is
You're fighting yourself.
who dropped out? Probably Tony.
It was
Oh,
Richard.
I'm still here.
Oh.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I guess Richard has nothing to say.
Don't tell me yet.
This is another one with multiple solutions. For example, I could attack this one here, have her attack that one there, and this one come in and finish it off, or retry. I could have this one attack this one down here, her attack this one here, and then Archer come and finish it off.
Yeah, I think it was important in this one to give the player a bit of freedom, but to then, like, no matter how you play it, you have to engage with the different attack patterns of the 3 units. And so I gave the player a bit, like a bit of freedom there, which I think worked well. Oh yeah, and this kind of undesign here, where you've got everything designed around like a T or a box in the middle of the room, like this one, and I think the last level, 28, Atrium, like they all kind of came from the same sort of session of design. Like I pretty much did all of these ones in one go. I think there's maybe the next one, and it's like based around a T shape. Like, so there's a few, I think there's about 3 or 4 of these particular types of levels in the game. Oh yeah, here it is, yeah, it's a cycle, and so like you have to
This one here, because
move the units
you can
around.
see, nothing, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's how you know to start this one and go right here.
Yeah, and I think in that way, that's something I was worried about, that the actual numbering of the skeletons can make the solutions quite obvious, because oh, they got to follow that path.
I think it's still satisfying even when you can tell though. Like even though if the solution is very obvious, like I thought it was just satisfying to still be able to pull it off.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, just a tidbit that I remembered last night as well. Sorry, I'm saying last night, but last night in Australia, not last night. So yeah. Anyway, so something I did intentionally is you'll notice that when each level starts up, it'll have like level start, and it will have the title of the level just underneath. And for like the few, for the 2 seconds that's on screen, you can't actually make a move with the cursor. And so the idea was that, firstly, it was like a sort of like a Fire Emblem thing, where in Fire Emblem it'll have a similar intro to battles, which is really swish and really cool. But it's also so that when the player begins each level, they have to look at that. They have to look at that at the name of the level, and in that way, it can guide them to conceptually understand how they're meant to approach the level. So it's like a really subtle thing. So they start this level, they see, group huddle isn't that useful, but they go, okay, group huddle. Well, that probably means I need to, maybe I need to clear the units away so they can attack each other. So okay, so that's the concept of this level, and it just kind of primes on the player in a clever way.
Backspace was the one where that came across most apparently to me.
Oh shit, this doesn't work. I thought I found a second solution, but this doesn't work.
No, you
You
no,
can't.
'cause you then attack the knight.
Also a cool consequence.
Just kill the knight.
Just stab the skeleton through the night. They'll never see it coming.
There also can't attack through walls, right?
Walls. I mean, walls. There's only 4 walls. Are you talking about well? So no units can attack over rocks, and no units can attack into the wall. But those gates, I think you can fire your arrows over the gates for the archer. Oh yeah. This level is inspired by the Kamehameha attack in Dragon Ball Z.
That's why I'm doing this. I wanted to get funny stuff like that out of you.
But you've actually played it
Yeah,
wrong,
I
Adrian,
did.
because you're yeah. I mean, because you're meant to
Spoilers.
sort of build it all in the center, and then yeah, just like that, and then the lads will come in and do it. See, I thought that this level was a bit gimmicky, but you know, I can't really explain it now. But when I put these levels together, I sort of did like a few difficult levels, and then an easy level, and I also so I balanced on the variation across the 28 levels to be something like well, aside from the tutorial stages, to be more like they were balanced according to some difficult levels and then a breather, and then some difficult levels and then a breather. But also I balanced the levels according to whether they were deep or complex puzzles. Like this one here, 8, I think is more of a complex puzzle in that you're basically just whittling down you're whittling down your viable options, where and it doesn't really require that deep of an understanding of the nuances of the different unit types and the space and so on. I think this one might kind of be similar, but it's a bit better. But then you get like the more I'd say the more deeper puzzles, or on puzzles that are more clearly focused on a particular concept, which I think you'll see in the one after this.
But was it on purpose that you made room 28?
Sorry, I'm done making it on purpose.
What?
Sorry, what was your question?
Was it on purpose that room 20 is number 8, so it looks like 28, which is the number of levels in the game?
No.
It's conspiracy, man.
Yeah, immediately the thing that puts me off is I don't want to attack him so that one gets the fire, but it looks like one of them's going to have to. One of the first things I do, because at least any level with the purple unit, because she's able to attack 2 units at once, an easy way to figure out what to do is simply like count out how many units you have and then count how many skeletons there are, and that's how it gives you a better idea of what to do, although I haven't hit one of those levels just yet.
Well, I mean, but that doesn't really work, because unless you got a lancer, then you'd have 1 unit per skeleton.
Yeah, that's what I meant with the purple unit.
Yeah, I think of it more like, okay, I need to make some room here. How
That's why.
can off certain enemies without giving their aura to another enemy and putting myself in a unwinnable situation.
Mm-hmm. And I saw it right there. Archer starts out here, shooting, and then this one, because before, if I didn't take that one out first with the archer, it would have gotten the fire, but now I got it. So now it's just clearing the way. And he can get that. Come down here, get rid of you. Archer, shoot over for that.
Actually, it's interesting, like, in levels like this, it doesn't focus on the auras at all. Like, there are some levels that where, well, actually quite a few levels where the auras aren't important, but the jigsaw, but how you jigsaw them together, the different attack patterns, is like the main thing. So sometimes I bounce between the 2 ideas, and sometimes I combine them.
Yeah.
I think the later levels combine them. Like here's a good example.
So 3, 4, 5. So looking at the numbers
really,
of enemies, I can see that the fire needs to generally be moved this way. This guy needs a fire. Oh no, it can't attack through those. And my knight is
Uh,
trapped.
Another interesting thing as well is the music. So the the main music that you hear in the levels was really came from the feedback session, because originally the feedback was from Richard, I think. Yeah. Richard said that the music wasn't really thinking music, and that was a bit of a problem. So, because originally it was like kind of similar to the main theme, like very Fire Emblem inspired, and then then Richard said that it should kind of be more like Professor Layton and other puzzle games where the music supports the player in making sense, in thinking. Like it's thinking music. Like there's a timing factor to it, and so that was one part, and that was sort of how I led Hayden to do on the main music. But also you'll notice across the levels that it starts out with like 2 layers of music, and then as you get, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 other points in the game that as you progress we add like another instrument, or like another layer of sound, and so it does build up in intensity, and that was something that I really liked.
I didn't notice that, but yeah, the music's really good. I like the music.
I think this is probably one of my favorite levels because you've got, I mean, it's called channels because you've got like this one channel with the arches here, but you have to work within that space where you are now, Adrian, sort of outside of the arches, to then carry the flame forward, and then it kind of loops back around into the main area, which is really, I quite like this one. And this level just came from the idea of, can I do something with like an isolated channel that loops back into the main area, and that's sort of what it became. So that was great.
This archer needs another fire.
Well, how about you put the top
I see.
left?
Here's what we're gonna do. I had to transfer the fire through the skeleton.
Yeah, this level got me stuck a little bit because I didn't think about doing that, so that's pretty cool. It's like, else you have to move the archer, but once you move him, then he or she is out of line of sight of the enemy, so you have to use the skeleton.
And I like how now it becomes a different kind of problem. You know, like there's like this last section is like its own sub puzzle within the puzzle. Yeah, that's cool.
Not stumped yet.
Yeah, and so this is on the one where you have to leave a space 3 times.
Yeah, see, you count them 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them's already leveled up. 3, 6, 7, 8. So yeah.
Why did they level it up? Anyway.
Level 2.
So yeah, because this one is in the way, I figure I might have to do something like this, where like go down and hit it, and that's why this one's level 2.
Yeah.
So this one, all right, they can't attack through each other. So I need to start. Need to start clearing the way. Well, she can attack them both, so do that. Maybe this.
No.
You didn't backspace.
Not in backspace. No, in the backspace is not an undo.
Yeah, that's actually what I tried to do in this level. It's like, oh, maybe backspace doesn't do.
Yeah, so this level it combines the unique attack pattern of the lancers, the sequential and the spatial elements come together in one puzzle.
There we go, you tricky
that's it.
bastard.
There you go.
And then again, backspace taking advantage of that fact.
Yeah. That is
Yeah,
fun.
you had it. See, he almost faked you out twice. Like, oh, you forgot.
Yeah.
Remember to do it with this one. Oh, but remember to do it with this one too. Otherwise, you get stuck.
So this next level actually got me stuck for a little bit too. The puzzle.
Freestyle.
Yeah. So it's called freestyle because it's sort of a more open level.
Need 4.
I think this is one of the complex puzzles that I mentioned. Because there's a lot of, like with the last puzzle, the more restricted, like the number of rocks in the environment really restrict your options and provide clear, distinct laneways of movement. Where here it's like a lot freer. So
This probably is not gonna work.
yeah.
I made a question mark.
That's another like good sign of a good puzzle is when you're off by 1, right? And like the one, like the bigger of a consequence that one means, like what that one is, the cooler puzzle. I feel it's just like, oh, like if I only had one more tile to move, I could do that, but I don't. So you have to do like this crazy workaround.
Again, jeez. So that's too far.
Daniel, level 20 is destroying me.
Is it? 20.
Yeah. I don't want any help. I just want to tell you that.
Okay. Yeah, I think level 20 is interesting because it's a bit. All of the other levels are quite easy to read and follow, but this one is one of the harder ones to read. But really, it's not a very high concept puzzle because you just have to clear the way for the other units. It doesn't, from memory, it's not really connected in a chain as much. I kind of think of it more like a busy work kind of puzzle. So it's probably one of the less enjoyable puzzles in my opinion, simply because it's it seems to be more complex.
Adrian, are you always attacking those bottom 2 skeletons from the right? So you could use the lancer from the left.
I did that.
I'm paying attention.
No, right when I fucking complain about this level 20 puzzle, I solved it. Like, what the fuck? Holy shit.
It kind of feels like that's something that happens in puzzle games. Like you're so furious, going, I can't solve this. I can't. Oh wait, I can solve this. This happened to me a few times in Snakebird. This is impossible, and then suddenly I get it.
Yep. This is cool though.
Let's see. Grr. Wait. There we go.
By 1.
Haha.
No. No. So it doesn't work because so if you're a level 4 and you attack a level 2, then like you get like a level 3 or something. So, yeah. So this is the bit troubles. I concealed really well.
You got me, a bastard.
So yeah, because it's always like it'll give you the aura will always drop 1 more than So if you kill like a 3, it'll drop a 4. If you kill a 5, it'll drop a 6. Regardless of how many aura you have. So you could have 100 aura and you kill like a level 1 guy and it'll drop a 2. And that was like the one thing that I was thinking about initially, where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can make this game. Like I thought that would be somewhat problematic, and it actually wasn't. So that's good. I think
Adrian, you're
Yes, I go.
the guy on the top right, right?
You know, there's a really good Let's Play on YouTube that beats the game in 12 minutes. Yeah, just say it.
Yeah. Making fun of me.
Blind?
I don't want to sound like disingenuous or an asshole, but like, wouldn't like speedrunning like any puzzle game just like amount to like memorization? Like just knowing, oh, I already know how to puzzle, so just do it as fast as possible, or like due to the nature of this game, there's more like optimization involved.
I think there's still something to be said about being able to memorize the solutions, as quick as you can like that.
There's also a smaller number of steps. Find the solution that takes the fewest number of moves.
Yeah, I liked your video that you just posted.
Thanks.
That was cool. You actually, like I said in the chat, I was like, fuck, because like I didn't have any playtesters for the last 2 levels, so I patched the last level, and I have to patch the second to last level because you're not supposed to be able to jump. Well, I'll talk to you about it later, but
Okay.
you're not supposed to be able to jump over one part of it. Doesn't really break it too hard, but I was like, oh fuck. Makes it a little easier.
Oh, wait.
Yes,
Oh.
Adrian, use the lancer on the left-hand side.
Yeah, that part I know. What I'm looking at is just the sequence after that.
You want to kill the top skeleton with the right knight, I think.
Yeah. Come on, Adrian, this is a community playthrough. Listen to
Yeah.
what Greg said.
We're judging you.
No, it's okay. Actually, I did pretty well. I did the first 25 levels really well, and then I got stuck, and I just used the guide on my own game.
Wait, isn't this the same shit as before?
No.
You were so close.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
that
my
last
bad.
step.
That's
In terms of speedrunning puzzle games, I suppose there is this one thing where it's memorizing. We often think of memorization as being very static, but it can be very dynamic in the sense of how you chunk and organize, and the processes that you use to retain information, can be very creative and whatnot. And so I think that speedrunning a puzzle game is part memorization, part recall in the moment, and that's sort of what makes it risky or engage or exciting, I would imagine.
So,
We need
like
Richard in here.
the
Sorry.
cleanest way of chunking your solutions? That you memorize them?
Yeah. I mean, it's even if I imagine how I would speedrun this game, it would have to have something to do with thinking about. I'm just thinking. Yeah, Adrian, you probably want to use. Yeah. It probably has something to do with memorizing the movement of units in memorizing them visually. And so when you see a level like this, what you see in your mind's eye is actually a collection of movement paths that you then refine as you go through each step, if that makes sense. This is one of the harder ones too.
Yeah, that means this is... If this is not the last level, then this is the one that I got stuck on 4 years ago.
If it makes you feel any better, I think Jonathan Blow played this game and he tweeted that he got stuck on this level.
I remember this being the get stuck level.
I think
Yeah.
I got stuck here too.
Is that a bad thing? Yeah, looks good, Adrian. Yep. Is it a bad thing to have a level like this where you can get stuck? Like, is this a difficulty spike? Is that the problem? Like, why do people get stuck on this level?
I don't think it's a difficulty spike. I think I don't think it's too bad to get stuck in something like this because there's only one thing I can focus on, so I can keep trying over and over again to see how I can finally hit the final solution. Where I guess maybe compared to something like Snakebird that had a world map and I had like 5 puzzles stuck on, I would get kind of frustrated when I would try some for a few turns, give up, try some for a few turns, give up. So I even though I could have kept sticking at it one level, I guess I felt like to lay off steam, I'd go to a different level, except that would still give me trouble. So I guess in a game like this, it's not so bad when I can just focus on it. If any of that made sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a comment that people make about like the Zelda games as well. Like if you're stuck in a dungeon, you can just leave and go, do some side quests or something.
I do think it's a difficulty spike in that you have, I count 4 different, or I guess 5 different levels of enemies. And I think that's, usually you have like maybe 1 leveled up enemy, and here you have a whole variety leading up to level 11.
Yeah, it's probably the numbers are kind of hard to keep track of. I don't think this is that hard. Like, I think it's fine. I don't think it's a huge difficulty spike. I think like the interesting thing about this is the different levels of the enemies that you have to keep track of.
I think it's probably like a combination of 2 things. I think it is that there are 9 enemies, which is a lot. In saying that, like the space is quite simple, and the how you're able to pick apart and create holes within the 3x3 group is like there are only a few options. However, this puzzle still has a lot of steps, and I think later in the puzzle, I think there's a bit of a wrinkle in how you're meant to approach it. So I think it's that combination of having quite a number of steps to go through, and then once you've done that, having to wrap your mind around a particular wrinkle. I think those things, when put together, are what make it challenging. Whether that's too challenging is hard to say.
Got it.
Good stuff.
Woo! What a good puzzle.
This is another puzzle that got me stuck for a while.
Dog ear.
Oh yeah, I remember this one too.
3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 1 Lancer needs to kill 2.
It's interesting why it's called dog ear. Anyone want to have any guesses why it's called dog ear?
Because it's named after your dog's ear. Your own personal dog.
I don't have a dog.
Oh.
When you get stuck, you bookmark the puzzle, and it's a dog ear.
No.
The shape the units make is a dog ear.
What shape is a dog ear?
It's on the dog.
Okay, it's got something to do with folded level design.
So the image of a dog ear is when you take one corner of a page and fold it over to the opposite corner, right?
Maybe. Well, I mean, it depends on how you fold it. So we know what a dog ear is, like in folded, like with folded paper, don't we?
Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I do that?
Let's watch Adrian play and we'll see if we can figure out why it's called. So that'll be. So Adrian, you just do it on the puzzle, and everyone else will do the other puzzle given them.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. But I don't need to do that. I need 2, 2, 3, 4. Either all of these, or I just need this one. Plus 1. Archer here can't hit anyone without Knight moving out of the way. I forgot what the whip girl was called. What's the name of that class? There we go.
Just whip.
It's just called whip.
Yep.
So yeah.
I mean, think about okay, yep. So you're meant to get the. What will happen if you do that? I'm not sure.
Okay, I see. Wait.
I think again.
I have 1, 2 units left. I'm sorry, I can't count. 3 units left. And I need to get rid of 4 units.
No, I think you've messed up actually. But you've got the right kind of idea, but it's not. I'm not sure if you can solve the problem.
Yeah, it's because the elf only has... can only attack 1, but... if I attack either one of these ones... because with these 2 guys here, they have to be taken out by a Lancer. So yeah, let's try that again.
You could kill the level 4 skeleton with the elf if you attack it with the lance. The 2 guys with the lancer from the left, but then I think you'd be screwed on killing the level 5 skeleton.
That's level 6.
I can read.
But yeah. The first trick here is thinking, well, it's this with the elf here. I can use her to clear the way. I could also use her to shoot this one
Use the
down.
lancer.
And the
Yeah.
Lancer can do the same thing. That's actually the first thing I did, but then I realized, oh wait, this one can't come around and hit the ear, because if this Lancer comes down here and hits from here, she blocks the way for the other Lancer.
So it seems like your opening moves are pretty limited in this one.
Well, it's actually because you have so many opening moves that you can do that. You have to read through them and see which ones are extraneous.
Okay, well, you've made a mistake already.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
So how come
that's
it's called a
spoilers.
dog ear?
Spoilers, let's see if I can figure it out.
Well, hold on. I mean, I gave you guys like the challenge, but I can't just give you the answer. You know, like the game right now is going to tell Adrian how
dog
to
ear
solve
like
the puzzle.
like an Australian word that we don't know?
No,
Yeah.
no. Think of the okay. So folded design is where like where you do something in one game. So you do something in a level, like you move across a certain area, and then you go back over that area the same way that you came. But on the backtrack, it's different from the original pass through the level. It could be different because you're approaching it from another angle. It could be different because you have a new ability. It could be different because of a variety of reasons. But basically, it's where you is where you repeat a section of level, but on the second time you approach it in a different way, and the game can support that in various ways. So that's folded level design. The dog ear is a kind of folded level design. Yep, good. So a dog ear is a kind of folded level design, but actually just hold it there, Adrian, so we can figure out this dog ear business. So a dog ear is like, if you think of how, like, if you borrow a book from a library and there's like those dog ears where someone folds on the corner. So that is another kind of folded level design. But the difference between a folded level design and a dog ear is that folded level design, you go through the exact same area again. With a dog ear, it's like you pass through, like it's a part fold, and so you pass through some of the same area, but not exactly the same area. And the reason why this is called a dog ear is because of the way that is how you move. Like just here, that space is opened up, and then you, as you move units around the puzzle, you reactivate old spaces, and so therefore the nature of space sort of unfolds in tiny little ways, and that's why it's called dog ear. Does that make sense?
Oh, sort of.
Yeah, okay.
Atrium.
And
What's an atrium?
you don't know what an atrium is?
No.
Okay.
You don't? I'm
No, I
judging
really
you.
don't.
I'm gonna judge you while he explains what an atrium is and you solve this puzzle.
Okay, so an atrium, according to the dictionary on my MacBook, is an open-roofed entrance hall or central court in an ancient Roman house. But pretty much it's like a main hall in a building, and there's usually like several stories in the hall. Sometimes like the ceiling is made of glass, so light will come in. But basically like a main foyer or opening area that's more than one story tall. And so this level, I think, is it's easier than on the last level, that's for sure. And it came out of the session where I put together the other levels, which were orientated around sort of symmetry. Levels like, I don't have their names. I'll get a level select and I'll find out. So Atrium came out in the same session that I did. Where are we? That I did floor 15 airways, floor 16 cycle, floor 17 clearing walls. Yeah, those 3 levels. Like I was kind of playing around with symmetrical design, and it came up with something like this. Yeah, so this one wasn't that difficult to put together. But it's interesting, right? Because like I found that as I was making the levels, they all came quite easily. I think that's because I had a real clear idea from the start. I wanted them to do a game with very limited design space and very clear grounded elements. Dealing with space and sequence, and the jigsaw fitting everything together. And the burning aura also functions in space. Everything is very grounded. It's very easy to understand, and I had a very limited scope. And when I made on the levels, I basically looked at the design space and those 3 parts that I talked about earlier, being the sequential nature of the game, the spatial nature of the game, and the fact that you can that when you move a unit, you fill a space, and therefore you block access for other units to move through. And the third thing being the jigsaw of how the attack patterns fit together. And I basically just looked at those 3 things and then just started hashing out level ideas. So it was like, so with the 3-back one, with the Lancer, it was just a case of, okay, I've got Lancer, they can do 2 attacks, or they can do 2 attacks, they can attack across a gap. But there's, there's this thing where if they attack, like I sort of stumbled across the 1-back idea, and I'm like, okay, well, how do I put it into a level? And I did it, and it worked. And so all of the core all of the core ideas were all just written out on graph paper, and then actually testing them, I had to actually make on the level itself. And so the graph paper was usually used just to get out on the main concepts, and then I could test and refine things once I had a working prototype.
So what makes this tricky right now is if I move this one here, it blocks the way for the night heat. Wait a minute. Whoops, I got it. Realizing that one thing, the whole puzzle came together.
It all comes together.
I've never seen this, actually.
Haven't you?
No, I got stuck on 26 4 years ago, remember?
Do it, Adrian. Oh, you did it?
Yeah, I did it.
Did it. What's in here anyway? They rushed in, they're like, man, there's no treasure.
Oh, wow, they're... They got just... Oh, holy shit!
Yeah, it's pretty cool ending.
What a twist!
Pretty cool ending.
So the one guy who makes it to the entrance has to give the tutorial spiel to the next group.
Ooh, 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 ooh. You know, I talked to Adrian a few months ago for some reason, and he mentioned that he never got a chance to play that one game that your brother made with the forest. Starts with an M.
Oh, you mean Mirai?
Yes,
Well, Morai was like really cool.
it was, and you know, it was just kind of. I guess I liked the when I finished playing it. My friend showed it to me, and then I saw Chris Johnson in the credits, and I'm like, wait, Daniel's brother, Chris Johnson, and it had the Australia email address and everything. I'm like, wow, it is that Chris Johnson.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was cool that he happened to show me the game, and it came from somebody I halfway knew. But
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. No, it was a a real success.
but no, he never got a chance to play it, and now he never ever will, and that's
I
yeah.
never will.
Yeah. There was
That
the.
sucks.
I mean, there's plenty of YouTube Let's Plays, etc. But yeah, there was an article that I think I linked to before on CNET that talked about how that game came to be and how it came to end. It's quite an interesting article, so I'd encourage you to read that. So, about the ending, I mean, it's called The Cave of Atman. So, you know, the idea is, you know, so aside from wanting to include an all-female cast, I wanted to include some kind of sort of idea or concept that isn't usually covered in games. And so, you know, I thought that the burning aura idea lends itself to like souls. So it's like you kill someone, and then and then their soul is remaining, and that's an idea that I had when I was playing John d'Arc. Like, I mean, that's sort of how I interpreted the burning aura. Anyway, so I came across the idea of Atman, which is like the idea of a sort of spirit or soul or true essence in Hinduism. And so I thought, well, Hinduism is something that something that games don't cover very much. And so the idea became that you would go, like a bunch of adventurers would go into a cave, and they would solve all these puzzles and kill all these skeletons, and then they'd leave, and then it would loop back on itself. And so, I thought that was I like that cyclic idea, and it fits in well with other sort of metaphors you can make, saying like, oh well, like the cycle of life and death. Like, people are born, and then they're killed by someone, and then and so on and so forth. So yeah, I thought it was quite a clever ending.
It definitely was surprising for me, having just first experienced it now. Although, see, I think probably one of the most surprising thing from listening to this is you saying how, I guess, easy, or I don't know easy, but how quickly all the puzzles came to you from outlining these core features, saying I want this, 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 and this, and you being able to, like, in total, from start finish, how much time did it actually take to make this game? Like, a few months?
Yeah, it took a few months. It's hard to say because I developed a lot of the ideas from my writing notes, but I think we spent 6 months on it. But I think we had a major, maybe 3 months where we didn't really work on it much. But yeah, it didn't. Yeah, I actually feel as I was putting up together the levels, I pretty much had all the levels for the main game. And then I was like, okay, well, I still got heaps on to go. And then I started making more levels. And then I was like, no. And then we put everything into the game. I was like, no, this is fine. So originally I thought it was going to be a real struggle with making all the levels, but no, it really wasn't. It was actually quite straightforward. So Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Yeah, like, I mean, I'm kind of surprised myself that I got to the end and I'm like, oh well, that's we can call it a game. Like I sort of kept making levels, and then I was like, well, I'm not really adding anything to the design space. Like I think there was a moment when I realized that, oh well, I've covered all of the core concepts that I've more or less covered all of the core ideas I can extract out of this design space. That's fine.
So now you've got me curious, since you said at one point that you decided that, hey, these extra levels I'm making aren't adding anything. Was there anything? Because right now I'm just curious if there's anything that you cut or that you brainstormed and early on thought, nah, I don't want to put that in. Like, I'm curious, like, what those very beginning stages were. Like, basically any ideas you come up but threw away.
I mean, in terms of like the actual levels themselves, no. The additional puzzles that I cut, they were more like some of the more complex puzzles that weren't really that great anyway. So, yeah, so I cut those because I already had a few similar levels. Like they just weren't unique enough. Like they were too similar. They were too much about trying to memorize everything in a sequence as opposed to engage with the core concepts of the game. But like originally, I actually wanted to make like a kind of Fire Emblem-esque game out of this. So the idea was to have like all of the same sort of gameplay, but but multiple turns, pretty much exactly the same as Fire Emblem, but removing the leveling and the equipment systems. So it would just be so each level would be like preset loadout. So it was pretty much like the same as it is here, but multiple turns set over a larger space. And I actually started designing that first. And I was working on like the first level, which was some kind of forest level. And as I was doing that, I thought, oh, there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of player freedom here. And I don't know necessarily if the player is actually going to play the game and really engage with the Atman concept, like the burning aura idea. Because I thought it would be like, yeah. I mean, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that if I were to make such a game, it would basically be like Fire Emblem / Advance Wars, but with the burning aura mechanic. And I thought, well, that's not really distinct or unique enough to warrant me to want to create this adventure, and to invest all this time into a game. And so I had the idea in the back of my mind that, well, I could just turn it into a puzzle game, and then maybe if I just start thinking about it as a puzzle game, then I'll be able to figure out a few ways on how I can then design a main Fire Emblem-esque campaign. And then I made it on the game, and I thought, well, that's great, and I forgot about the Fire Emblem stuff.
Yeah, because I was about to say, seeing what your inspirations were, the main thing that got me was, because I guess it's briefly covered in the blog, but the point where it transitioned from these multi-turn strategy RPGs into single-turn puzzle, that was what I was trying to see how that transition came about.
Yeah, and I think part of it was, I was playing Tactics Ogre and John the Ark. I think mainly Tactics Ogre. I was playing that game, and I really love Matsuno, who has worked on that game and Final Fantasy Tactics and other similar games. And I really like his game. So I thought that they were especially Tactics Ogre, was so complex. And for me, it's like, I thought, how can I remove some of this complexity and some of this player autonomy that is kind of deconstructing the strategy aspect of the game? Like I sort of realized that in an SRPG is a highly incompatible genre in the sense of in fact, in all games, I think things like leveling and equipment, those things can often undermine the more, I suppose, on the more sort of pure or core elements. And I've written about this with Mario and Luigi blog, but I'm very cautious about RPG systems. And so basically, like, it became a process of me saying, okay, well, I need, like, if I want to make my own version of this sort of game, then I'd need to remove all this complexity. And I'm like, oh, well, but then the player would still have too much freedom. And so basically it just became a process of me becoming more and more authoritarian in my thinking until I got to quite a strict puzzle game where I knew that I would be able to control how the player engages with the game by literally giving them a tiny room, a few elements, and having to fit those together.
So basically, you just cut the fat and just boiled it all down to the bare essentials.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. I think that's what I did. But yeah, I took heaps of notes. I took about 20, 30 pages of notes on those games, and it was all sort of building up towards a long multi-game repair article. And then I realized that actually, those kind of design repair articles, Richard used to do them, and I think he's had, I know he's had sort of the same realization where that, when you try to fix a design, it's more like changing the design in a way that suits you and your own taste in games, and therefore for me to be able to fix these games, so to speak, I'd have to make my own game. So why not just make my own game? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
Make your own, slowly.
So after listening to that, I'm curious what you think of Advance Wars.
I think it's great, yeah. So my brother, who worked on this with me, he was like an Advance Wars guy before me. Like, he was like an Advance Wars guy, and I was like a guy. And now I feel like I wish I was like an Advance Wars guy, because having done all this sort of research into the SRPG genre, I realized that Fire Emblem is not very good compared to Advance Wars. So, and as I said before, I've tried to beat Fire Emblem Sacred Stones 3 or 4 times, and I get to the same mission and I have the same problem, and it becomes so repetitive and it drives me crazy. So, yeah. Actually, it's interesting. My brother's making a sequel to this game.
Yeah, you talked about it. I think there were I don't know if you were the one who had concerns about you guys were just talking about puzzle sequels in general a while back or something. Adding too much complexity. I think that was the main idea.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. I'm not involved with it, so he's, he asked me if he can do it, and it's all cool. And I was pretty skeptical at first, but having looked at what he's done, it's really good. It's really good. It includes a whole bunch of new game elements. I don't know if I can talk about them, but yeah, I think it's great. I think that there's probably potential for up to at least 50 levels. So I think it will be quite good.
Oh, really? Is it still a puzzle game?
Yeah, it looks the same. It's I think is moving it over to like a new sort of engine system.
Is there like a
But
blog or site where I can look up on
yeah,
this,
yeah,
or Sol on
yeah,
Twitter?
yeah. He's let's have a look.
Link that up. Also, please add
So-
undo. Oh my god.
I still
yeah.
gotta play your kangaroo game, Chim.
Time.
It's a hard K.
No, I'm gonna keep fucking it up every time.
It's fun. I don't.
Number one rule:
I
always
blame
fuck it up.
English. Blame English.
Yeah, so he's got a blog, cjohnson.id.au, and he talks about his work on there. He hasn't posted anything on Atman, but there's stuff on his Twitter as well, and there's some stuff on Mirai and other things. Like he does, he does like Twitter bots as well. So he's done like a Twitter bot where it'll crawl through Moby Games, which is like a sort of like a Wikipedia-ish site on games, and it will take game box art, and then he'll do he'll do
this is
two
good.
mirrored versions of the game box art, and then the Twitter bot will post like a new version each day, and so he's got cool stuff like that, which he does too. So yeah, check it out. I'll post the thing in the chat.
Nice.
That's really cool.
You know, it's funny because you get. I think that's like the exact same when you were saying how you and Richard were coming to similar conclusions. Richard literally went through the same process with Neo RPG, where it's like, hey, I want to fix RPGs. Oh, whoops, I turned it into an action game.
Yeah, that's like my worst
Yeah.
problem with the new God of War. Is like it has like sort of like heavier RPG stuff. Like you don't like level up stats or anything. It's more like just gear heavy, you know. And
Oh,
it gets kind of weird. Like I played on like the second hardest difficulty, and like the beginning is like the hardest part of the game because you have access to no gear, so you die in like 3 hits.
It's always really weird
Oh,
when games do it that way.
that's
That's just the problem with gear scaling in general. It's
yeah,
just-
that does sound
The
very
difficulty
strange.
like evens out once you get like better gear.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just,
But like that's
killing
the
shit,
funny
maybe.
weird thing, right? Like it shouldn't be hard in the beginning. It should be easier, you would think. And then like
I mean,
as
it's
you
my
get
fault
more
too for
things,
playing the
game
third
gets
hardest
easier.
difficulty though.
You get better gear in the Cave of Atman?
Oh no! Oh shit! Kirby Kid Cheer.
Yeah. Oh, you missed out on the whole thing, man.
You did. We were talking about what we were talking about. That was like
No, Richard was the prize at the end of Atman. That was that's why he was gone the entire time. You found him.
One whole Richard.
Ta-da!
So Adrian beat it in front of your face so I can talk about the ending?
In front of your face.
Yeah.
Is,
Yep.
is that going to be the Johnson hotel sign whenever they make a product where you have the ending loop back to the beginning? Is that the Johnson curse? Nobody mentioned that?
But actually, we did something similar in a game that we made at high school, Pollution Solution, where like the start of the game and the end of the game are very similar. Like it's like on the same cutscene, but it starts off, with like a pan of this horrible polluted world. I think this is probably on the world that we're living in now, and then at the end, it's like like you save the world or whatever, and then it's all green and the solar panels everywhere and wind farms. And so,
So that's
like,
3 game products that end like they begin.
Yeah.
Well,
Keep it
I
up,
mean,
Johnsons.
so that's
It's a good
cool.
trend.
Like that's cool, and the reason why it's cool is because it recontextualizes everything that you've been interacting with, right? So if you play it again, you're playing it, but now with different meanings to your interactions, and that's why that's cool.
I never
Yeah.
beat Expand, but just lie to me and say that it ends like it begins. Just lie to me. Do it.
I don't know. I don't know if you can say it ends like it begins. I can't
I
remember how it
said,
begins.
lied to me.
You'll have to play the game, man. It's on PS4 now. You can chip in a few bucks, yeah.
All right. He'll play
Um,
that game. You have to play his. That's the exchange.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait, but
Play Enlighten.
wait, but
I'm
the
waiting.
difference
I'm
is,
waiting, Daniel.
Yeah, I've never
Oh,
met
I'm at Bari
I've only
Ball.
got Mac. Oh, on a Barry Ball, yeah, like I played the heaps, and I
Yeah.
play a lot with my brother, and we did a little tournament thing as well.
Mhm.
So,
So it doesn't count
uh,
for this.
Enlightened, it's still PC only. Is that right?
Yeah, that's why I make fun of Mac
Yeah.
people.
Oh,
It's for that one
Oh,
reason.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
Game Maker. What the fuck? You could publish a
It's-
Mac in Game Maker.
It's not easy. Apparently,
Well,
you need like a
it's like, I
Mac
haven't done
and
it either,
or stuff, and I'm like, I thought it was push a button and then send Daniel a
Yeah,
file. It's
Why
not
wouldn't
that
it be
easy.
that? I guess just get
Mm.
like the Windows version of Game Maker can't do it for some reason.
Ah, man, I looked
I don't
into it.
know.
I can do it again, but I don't think it's easy.
Hmm. Like
But
maybe
Daniel
you just
can,
need to publish it on a Mac. So maybe you can send the file over to.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't have a Windows machine at home at all.
No, but I
Yeah.
mean, like, do you have Game Maker? Because you just use his license and then publish it, and then. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky. I could just do a cloud-based version of Enlighten where you can just remote in and play it from any device.
Ooh, you could do that for like testing. I don't know if I'd do it publicly,
Kind of scary.
but yeah, a little weird.
I feel like okay. I guess the only questions, although I feel like you've probably been answering it throughout this recording. Daniel, just what do you like about puzzle games, and what do you value in them?
Oh, jeez.
There's a
That's a
right
tough
answer to
question.
this question.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I have to really think about that question for a while. What do I like about them? Well, okay, so I like puzzle games that are good that are good teachers, and that's something I really pay attention to. I like puzzle games that are grounded. So I think Atman does that in the sense of everything's grounded in space. You know, like using space, using time, using very grounded elements helps the player to understand puzzle games. And I like puzzle games that are sort of where the complexity comes from dynamic elements that are connected together. So, like in Atman, it's like everything is tied up together through space and through, I suppose, timing in the sense of sequence. And so I think those are the other. Oh, and I suppose puzzles that are primarily designed around those core elements. So, you know, where they are designed around fitting the different interesting conceptual elements within the design space together, as opposed to having to sort through complexities that may I'm not really sure how to explain it, but to sort through complexity which is quite static, like sort of static information, like having to remember a lot of things for no particular reason. Like a lot of the Killer 7 puzzles that we talked about are like that, where you just have to like memorize stuff, and they
That
become
game.
Yeah.
and they become more complex as you have to memorize more bits, and so you know that's probably a good counter argument.
Clam bits.
So yeah. Oh, and I figured from when you answered the question of puzzles that you cut, that I figured that one of the things that you didn't value was puzzles that take a lot of moves, because typically the result of more complexities than it is necessarily how you read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Daniel, I don't know if you already answered this, but like, what's examples of a puzzle, like from any game that you would say is not grounded?
Killer 7.
Killer
Killer
7?
7, yeah.
Just I didn't play enough Killer 7. Like I only played the first level, so like,
Okay.
how bad did those puzzles get?
Oh, they're pretty awful. Yeah, I mean they're pretty awful. I think. puzzles. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I mean, not bad because initially they're quite simple. So, like, it's pretty easy to remember, 3-4 bits of information, and then run around the corner and plug that in. But that's easy. But the later ones are a real pain. I'm thinking. I was going to say Portal 2, but I think the puzzles in Portal 2 are great. I just hate the story. So annoying.
Really, you didn't like the story? I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really want to have a discussion about that, but
yeah,
I
that's
will.
probably for another time. For another time.
Yeah. Other puzzle games that do that, or adventure games, like
Yeah.
classic point-and-click adventure games. They do stuff
Using
like
every
that.
item and every combination and all that crap.
Yeah, completely arbitrary and pointless. Even like the
The
kind of like
logic
modern
issues.
ones do that. Yep, logic issues. Like I tried playing a few modern versions of those sorts of games, and they're really not so good. So
It's just like the difference between a hard-coded solution that's basically from the designer's mind or a systemic solution. So, take for example, like you're trying to burn something in an adventure game and you hold it up to a candle and it doesn't burn, but if you put it in the fire, it does burn. If that was the systemic solution, since the candle is also fire, it would catch on fire and burn. But if it was a hard-coded one, it's like, oh, the designer is only thinking about the kiln or something like that.
So I think what you're getting at is like how dynamic the interactions are, whether the candle works on anything that's flammable or if it just works on the one thing.
Right.
well, I mean, it's not even like dynamic. Isn't even so much whether you can apply like in Mario and Luigi Dream Team Brothers. There's a series of articles coming out about that right about now. But in those games, right? Like you can use the hammer on enemies, you can use it on switches, you can use it on a variety of different game elements. But although it has that broad application, like all you do is push A and then something happens, and it doesn't really make the game like you pretty much use a hammer on a switch. And so although you can apply that mechanic to many different game elements, the actual interaction itself isn't very dynamic.
Because it doesn't express anything interesting, right? No interesting consequences arise from hitting the hammer to a switch, other than maybe the first time you would do it.
Well, I mean, it can, like it can do. Well, I suppose it can do, but in the game it doesn't really. No.
So it's more mundane things like hit a switch to open the door.
Yeah, and then you just walk around into the door, so on and so forth. Yep. Actually, yeah. Sorry. There is a. I just yesterday I finished writing a series of posts on Mario and Luigi Dream Team Brothers, or Dream Team as it's known in the US, and I talk about why RPG overworlds are really boring. In that post, so check it out. Should be out in a week.
Cool.
But yeah, please look out for the sequel. It's really good. I was initially very doubtful of the idea of making a sequel, but I am really impressed so far. So I'm not sure when it will be out, but there's already a pretty solid game in there. So look forward to it.
Nice.
Definitely. I'll take your word for it.
Cool.
Good.
And then maybe next time we can play Atman 2 and compare it to the first Atman, and I'll bring my brother along, and that'll be really fun. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Then I can get stuck halfway through.
So he just does the programming, and you do the design.
For the first game, yes, I did all the design, including graphics, and he did all the coding. And then for the second one, he's doing everything. Although I don't know about what he's going to do with
Gotcha.
music. So
Yeah, and the music was Hayden. The art looks good, by the way.
thanks. Cool. So we'll finish up.
Yep, this is good.
Cool.
All done.
thanks.
Been good.
Yep, as usual, thank you all for joining me.
No worries.
You need a cooler ending phrase in the future.
Yeah.
Alan,
Yeah.
We gotta talk about
Okay.
You gotta link
That's-
to your other YouTube videos and
Shh,
subscribe.
okay, you be quiet.
Smash
That
like button.
okay.
Cave
I,
of
that-
Atman, more like Cave of Ass Man.
Actually, no. But Daniel, where did Atman come from? Because I remember this game was used to be called Sakura. Where did the name
That's
change
right.
come
It was
from?
the Hindu.
Oh, right. It was Hindu thing.
Yeah.
Cave of
I mean,
Batman.
yeah, it was name changed
You need
because
license
we started
IP.
on the play. It was name changed because we started on the playtesting session, and no one could say the name of the game.
That is very important.
Yeah, no one
Yeah.
can say bar ball, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Well, it has a good ring to it. Like you can see it.
People can't read it or spell it. Even in their like reviews, they switch around an A, and you're like, all right, that's fine, yeah.
They keep getting tongue twisted, having to say Barabari.
They're just not reading carefully. Like, have you heard anyone say Sudoku?
yeah.
Yeah, I
No.
do that sometimes. Well, how are you supposed to?
Yeah,
Sudoku?
dads say Sudoku, but it's Sudoku. That's because those syllables in the middle are so foreign that they just kind of don't read it, and then they just stick with whatever they think it is. So it's the same with ball. So you're like, it kind of looks like very.
Actually, you know what?
Very
I have seen
Barabari.
something like that, and
Oh,
it is the
very big.
strangest. It is the strangest thing I've seen. I've seen someone pronounce Kokiri Kokorai.
Well, it's kind of understandable because it's like, well, what you just said. It's like you're kind of like internally romanticizing. Romanizing, is that how you say it, or just like
Yes.
trying to figure it
Roman-
out with
Ratata.
your own language. It happens with Spanish sometimes. If I don't know a Spanish word or something, I'll just try to like
Yeah.
figure out the Latin out of it.
I mean, the sound meaning form relationship in English is quite complex and has contradictions to it. So that's why we can't say very variable or kokori. Wait, kokori?
Just goes back to English sucking. Terrible language.
That's really good because I can say fuck.
This is a Christian stream.
Not anymore.
Now,
All right, I'm gonna head off.
Now
guys.
it's
I gotta
run
get
by
some lunch,
atheists.
So,
Later, Daniel. Thank you
cool.
for
So,
joining
see you
me.
guys.